Okay, so for a start, this is just an informal chat about tonight's first video that we did on lights. And this is my colleague Dean.
Good evening.
And he went to the trouble to shave. How did I go on the first video talking about lights?
Very good.
What did I miss out?
Well, you only missed 3 or 4 key points.
All right, what are they?
Well, you went through a range of lights, which is all great. All their characteristics, you know, waterproof, this, that, and the other. From a practical perspective, one of the key things I think is that most lights today are incredibly bright compared to the old lights. I think one of the issues we have these days is some of the lights can be too bright. You don't want the light so bright that it's actually blinding the driver or the motorcycle, someone else's vision. So it's a bit of a, you know, sort of a double-edged sword, or a bit of a balancing act. It's you want them bright, and I know there's this focus on the amount of lumens a light has or otherwise, but something to consider. Don't make it so bright that you're actually blinding the vision of the driver. One of these lights, that one is a great example. Very bright. Now that's a rear light, but it's so bright that, you know, you ride in a bunch, the people behind you get you know, blinded by its brightness. There's other examples of that. Same with the headlight. So just a practical thing. Don't have so much light on your bike. I see lots of people riding around with 2, 3 or 4 lights on the bike. It's that bright that when you see it head on, even if you're a motorist, that you're actually, you know, you're having a detrimental effect to what you're trying to achieve in the first place, which is visibility and safety. How are you going there? We should run a session on how to unpack a light.
Like that?
Exactly. It's a great example.
You meant to go, oh, bloody hell.
Exactly. So
actually, I'm not sure. Oh, that's not too bad. Hang on. Oh, I just got it. Hang on.
But you think about it, if you're the driver and you're coming along to see a cyclist, some of these, when you get in the sweet spot of the light, it's incredibly bright. We don't want to defeat the purpose of the light in the first place, that yes, the driver's seeing you, but then you've blinded him and now he can't see you.
If you want to get a good deal on a light, just come and buy this one with the destroyed packaging. Hang on, let me just see if it's...
You'll be retired by the time you get it out of the box.
Well, you know what I was doing for a long time? I was buying... Oh, hang on, that was a funny mode. I'll let you see that different modes. I was using like a blue light and a green light and a white light, and all those 3 different colours flashing together.
Great idea.
And I remember riding back with you from Sorrento one time, and I had a blue and red flashing light, and we could hear this car racing up in the distance.
It was a motorbike.
Was it?
It was a motorbike.
Oh, up the background, it was a bit foggy, and as soon as they got over the hill and saw the blue and red flashing light on the back of my bike, it was boom, boom, boom.
You just
boom,
heard the
boom,
bike
boom.
exactly right back off. So it's
oh, that was the bunch
example.
mode. Hang on.
Unfortunately, those...
that's the bright mode there, but... Sorry, that's the bunch mode for riding in the bunch, so you don't blind people.
But it only has the one colour, yeah. Unfortunately, that particular light you described there from those years ago is illegal.
Well, is it illegal or non-permitted? Because you're not impersonating a police officer. Because that was the problem. But I think you're allowed to have a blue and red flashing light now.
Really?
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are.
Well, blue and red tends to be the colours of an emergency services vehicle. So
blue and red should never be seen unless there's a badge in between.
Blue,
Red.
Red and green should never be.
Unless there's a touch of white in between. But blue and red should never be seen unless there's a touch of a badge in between, I heard anyway.
Now, given that it's dark outside and it's where we're sitting right now, it's we're the first day of winter.
We'll just push them off the table. That's it.
The first day of winter where I was this morning, it was extremely foggy. Mm-hmm. So think about the conditions you're going to ride in. That, without wanting to plug the moon shield light, that's a great light to ride where you're in fog, visibility, low cloud, whatever, visibility is extremely poor. Great idea. So always think about the conditions, the environment you're riding in, particularly in fog.
Sorry, what was that? I want to talk a little bit about this.
Oh,
this is a really, really cheap Taiwanese light, and these come without the focal beam. This little round thing's like a reflector that really pushes it really bright. And I reckon these are incredibly bright, but you can have... I always liked this light, but they have a really high failure rate. So that's really bright there, and you can go back onto that one or this one. And they're a bit cheaper than the others, but I like that because it's battery light. But nowadays... We used to replace batteries in one of these every summer. So a couple of AA batteries or AAA batteries, lasted a long time. I'm not sure if the really bright one has that, but I liked this one when I was just doing a little bit of research. Just going to hold this on. We've featured this light, how it has these different little SMD panels and it runs through. That's bright. Lower, and I reckon that's cool. That's going to really grab your attention.
Exactly.
Look away.
Exactly. Guess it's that real balance between, if you look in the road behind, it's very busy. You want to, typically a bike light got lost in all the other lights.
Yep.
These are that good now where that doesn't happen, and actually the focus can be drawn towards the bike light because it's so bright. You touched on batteries before. Some of the issues with a lot of the lights on the market today is they don't. You turn it on, particularly your rear light. You're riding along. Next minute, someone stopped and yelling at you because you don't have your light on, and the battery's gone flat without warning.
Yep. That's why I reckon 2 batteries.
Correct. Back to your point, 2 batteries or 2 lights is almost a must if you're going to be riding.
How do you do 2 batteries? Oh,
well, that was exactly. How do you do 2 batteries on that light? You don't.
I tell you the problem with these that I found. The batteries sit vertical, the little AA batteries, and when you go over a bump and they get a knock, they lose contact, and then the light's off. All they've got to do is go over a bit of a bump, where an internal battery was a little bit better.
I mean, that's sort of a recreational style light. It's sort of cheap and cheerful. Okay, but if you're going to ride, in bumpy terrain or anything.
Another thing that's interesting to consider: these batteries, by being nickel metal hydride or whatever they are, compared to a normal little NiCad battery or like a lead acid battery or whatever they are inside that, these have a run. It's not a linear curve. It sort of runs down. So about halfway through their life, they're just a bit dead. I mean, I feel like about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But the newer batteries, they produce a lot more power and then just die. So you get the full life out of them.
Exactly.
It steps right off.
Right. But you're right, these things to the point, the amount it frustrates me no end to see the amount of people riding with a light on their bike, but it's just barely visible.
And how many people ride with lights and they're really, really dull or off, and you go up beside them and say, oh, listen, your light's a bit dull, I could hardly see, and they go, mind your own business. It's like they're using a light for an obligation, a legal obligation.
Correct. To
be seen and go, I'll get away with as much as I can, instead of realising that, their life might be on the line here about being seen. I think that it's so important. I don't want to be the rest of my life in a hospital bed, so I think being seen is, like, I'd put 6 lights on your bike and have them all different angles and different colours and whatever, anything. And another thing that we didn't touch on during the review is you can choose where you ride and what sort of paths. Your plan of where you ride can be critically affected. Like if you're riding into the sun on a rainy day and 2 streets over there's a bike lane and 2 streets to the right there's a bike path, then maybe you should reconsider the route you're taking to get to where you want to be.
Exactly right. The amount of times you see a person with that sort of light on and it's almost been probably running on it flat for weeks and it's barely visible, but that person is on a main road as well. It's just like route planning. Lights are fantastic. Route planning is just as important.
It's actually a big passion of mine to being on a bike since I was 8, and so it's a long time riding bikes and a lot of Ks. And every time we hear someone gets injured, we think, oh well, it could happen to anyone. But then you look into what happened, and most of the accidents that you really hear of that are bad, you say, well, that could be avoided, or that was stupid, or whatever. I mean, about 75% of accidents don't involve another person or anything. It's just a bike rider making a mistake on their own and falling off and hurting themselves. So, stuff like this could mean the difference between life and death.
Absolutely. And as you say, you can have all the safety gear, the helmet, the lights, everything in the world. Nothing substitutes for common sense and some skill.
Whatever that is.
Whatever that is, exactly. some practical knowledge of.
Well, let's talk about something more interesting. Right? It's going to get dark soon. I don't mean dark. It's already dark now.
And cold.
But it's winter, and we figured out to be. To enjoy our life on a bike, that we've got to get almost to winter and then nick off somewhere, and we're going to head away in about a month.
Correct.
For
2 months.
That's 7.5 weeks in Europe. For about 8 weeks in Europe, and we're going to ride all around the Alps and the Pyrenees, and which we've been doing for 12 years now. We have our tours called Bike Now Europe, You can check it out. But we're going to do a bunch of videos from over there and let you guys see what we do. So it'll be really good for you to subscribe and like, so you can hear of the different things that are going on, and we'll be giving you little tips about where to go and what to do. And we take a lot of pride in finding the best little roads that no one else has found. So hopefully we'll be able to report on a few of those. But mind you, when we're whizzing down a downhill on a nice gorge road with a beautiful scenery and lunches ahead of us, no one really wants to stop and get the camera out of the bag, and everyone's in a hurry. So maybe we won't.
Suffice to say, we're a little bit excited.
Yeah, well,
Looking forward to.
yeah, getting a bit pale.
We are getting very pale,
Yeah.
pale, cold.
Pale, cold, and
Let's head north, as they say.
yeah, way north, over the
north.
equator and left a bit.
Let's head to another
Yeah,
hemisphere.
yeah.
Exactly.
So hopefully you can join us on one of those tours.